Buckle up, Trump's Quake cleans out the US deep state and dumps the European Union into the history dustbin. We already know that the German government has collapsed. They're going for elections. The electoral triumph of Donald Trump in the US brings tectonic geopolitical changes in the geopolitical sphere. Major reshuffles are coming. Europe on the margins of history. Russia, what happens to Russia? Now, this is in from 3 hours ago. A killer earthquake on the Richter political scale was the electoral triumph of Donald Trump on November 11. It's a very powerful earthquake that flattened the liberal show, which had been building the American deep state all this time. Well-known analyst columnist Pepe Escobar comes to these conclusions, pointing out that it was already accepted that Kamala Harris would have won with whichever way the elections, while without any extra institutional intervention. Trump would have been the winner as it happened. The big question, according to Escobar, is what the US deep state will do with Trump as president, which remains a powerful act with various lobbies there. The truth is that the world situation is bleak, and this should be the primary concern of citizens, not what the neoconservatives who have invested everything in a proxy war to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia will do. And as we know, the Russian assets are being stolen and unleashed. They're unleashing a tsunami of sanctions on Russia. They sent tons of equipment to Ukraine, which led to countless Ukrainian victims and a secular humiliation of NATO in the territories annexed by the Russian Federation. And no wonder West Asia and the wider global South got the message of what can happen to anyone who dares to go against the hegemon's interests, quote unquote, and align themselves with Russia, the analyst opines. The message to the ruler was sent, and it was the strengthening of BRICS and other members at the October 2024 flagship summit in Kazan. On the margins, Europe will be loaded with the burden of Ukraine. The US managed with the rules-based world order and the hawk Blinken, ex-Secretary of State, to strengthen the ties between all the major existential threats to the hegemon, 3 BRICS, that's Russia, China, and Iran, plus the indomitable North Korea. Escobar points out, all this is in contrast to a meager tactical victory for the US, which may not last long, the total subjugation of Europe, which will bear the burden of Ukraine. Of course, it should be clear that foreign policy does not win US elections. Americans themselves will have to solve their own dilemmas or plunge into a civil war. The coded message of the Trump earthquake is that various lobbies will win again, perhaps not so unanimously when considering all the strands of neoconservatives. Trump purges the US deep state. Wall Street is winning again. BlackRock's Larry Fink even said so before Election Day. And other powerful lobbies with positions in the deep state are winning again. But what if Trump feels emboldened enough after January 25th, 2025, to launch a Stalinist purge of the deep state, Escobar wonders. Election day in the US coincided with the annual meeting of the Valdai Club that Putin held, where all eyes fell on eminent geopolitical analyst Sergei Kaganov. Of course, it directly referred to the wars of the empire. He said, "We live in biblical times. We will defeat the West in Ukraine without resorting to extreme means, including nuclear weapons, followed by a peaceful withdrawal of the US, which will become a normal superpower," Kaganov said. Europe, meanwhile, will pass into the margins of history, Kaganov said. But then Kaganov said something very surprising. The war in Ukraine is replacing World War III. Then we can agree on some kind of order in Eurasia, stress the close association of Russia President Vladimir Putin. This will be the security indivisible that Putin proposed to Washington and rejected in December 2021. It's part of the Partnership for Greater Eurasia designed by Kaganov himself. He stressed, let's make the Ukraine war the last big war in the 21st century. Of course, there is also a great war in West Asia, that of Israel with the axis of resistance. Trump will deal with this case by leaving Ukraine in Europe. The Trump earthquake will stop America funding to Ukraine, which will have to live on Germany and the EU money by extension. Developments are coming. The US Treasury Department has issued an internal memorandum that runs until April 30th, 2025, when Trump will already be 3 months in office, allowing transactions with Russia banks for anything related to oil, gas, timber, and any form of uranium. As for the European Union, it will have to pay the heavy burden to arm Ukraine while receiving successive waves of new refugees and saying goodbye to its capital already invested in this huge black hole of Ukraine. The Trump earthquake will further arm the US dollar. It has threatened to blacklist any state that uses other currencies for international trade. This will accelerate the testing of all models in the BRICS laboratory, leading to a multi-layered alternative trade settlement system. BRICS and the Global South will also know that Trump actually signed the sanctions on Nord Stream when he recently referred to the pipeline murder. Trump personally destroyed JCPOA, the deal with Iran's nuclear program, brokered by the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. Moscow and Beijing know very well how this led to further destabilization of the whole of West Asia, combined with the doing away with General Soleimani on Trump's order. But last but not least, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, which forever bury any possibility of a two-state Israeli-Palestine solution. What will Trump do with Pompeo the hawk? The US president will try to dissuade Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman from moving closer to the BRICS and heading down the path of the petro-yuan. Here, according to Escobar, we end up with a treacherous character, Mike Pompeo, who is a serious candidate to become the head of the Pentagon. This would mean big trouble in the future. Pompeo was CIA Director and Secretary of State during Trump's first term. He is a hawk for Russia, China, and especially Iran. Undoubtedly, the pressing question from now on is whether Trump will do what his backers want him to do and give key positions to people that they want, and invest in Israel's war against Iran and the axis of resistance. If that happens, he won't have to worry about another assassination attempt, notes Escobar. But if he really tries to make his own independent game, there's no doubt that he will be a near-dead president. So the whole thing is waiting to, we're waiting for, with bated breath, to see what happens. How will Trump's earthquake translate into the geopolitical realm? Certainly, the bets are on the extensive use of private military companies, PMCs, for overseas missions and selected target military operations. Targets could include any global South player from Mexico to secure the borders, to Venezuela oil security, Yemen to secure the Red Sea, and of course Iran, a massive campaign for securing Israel. In short, no new wars, as Trump promised, just a few targeted areas. Escobar says, predicting a high-intensity hybrid event against Brazil, as he will not tolerate a BRICS founding member. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So he will not tolerate a BRICS founding member increasing its influence in the global South in Western Hemisphere. So this, we'll see what happens. This is, of course, a political opinion, Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.